So today we'll be doing something a little more different than my normal uploads, which is going to be my first interview with somebody that also uploads content on YouTube and who is specializing themselves in helping people achieve a greater life for themselves by using the power of their own consciousness, their own minds. So through this video, you're going to be able to learn some ideas from them. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon. And it even says, avoid legal snacks by telling people they're being recorded. Okay, so you're being recorded right now, just saying. But for the viewers that are watching, they're going to watch this, well, they know who I am, but if you want to introduce yourself and what you do to the viewer, sort of, you can do that right now.
Sounds good. Okay, so my name is Kim Velez. I am a conscious life and success coach, and I also used to be a licensed mental health therapist as well. And I just love helping people empower themselves to open up their mind and create the life that they want for themselves.
Well, that's one great goal to have.
Yes.
Very admirable. What I actually liked about your channel was that you also talk a lot about Neville Goddard's material, and he is like a very fascinating teacher. Like what he used to share is very next level, I would almost say. It's like so direct, but also like, so it's actually really easy to grasp compared to what most teachers do. Is it gets a little vague where they're like getting a little too far into quantum mechanics and stuff, and you're like, I just want to know how to improve my life, and he would just say, just imagine it. Right. I remember the first time I heard him use that term, I was like, wait, imagination? I never thought about using that mental faculty of mine in that way. Yes. And that really makes a huge difference in people's lives, I think.
Yes. And also, I love how he talks about like trust that it is done, and the importance of, persisting in your assumption, because just with my background and my field, like most people that walk into my office have been in an assumption in a very negative way and kept recreating the outcomes. And then in my own personal journey and my patterns that I wanted to break, I was always assuming the worst that kept showing up. So for me, I fell in love with him because he spoke to me too, in the sense of, this is so easy, and it really is about embodying and feeling who you want to be, and then trusting that it's going to show up, and that's it. It's really not that hard, right? Yeah. Or it's simple, but it's not easy, right?
It takes a certain amount of trust in yourself, in your confidence in yourself and your abilities, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're so powerful. We're just trained and conditioned to believe otherwise. We're trained and conditioned to, give up our power and put our power in other sources, which is false, which is why a lot of us have been a mess in our life or keep staying stuck in these patterns that don't feel good.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because that's one of the basic foundations for me and how I describe the power of consciousness, is the idea that we are letting the outside world constantly control the inner world. And if we keep living like that, we can never really grow towards something better that we really want. And it's that subtle difference with how we use our minds. I think if people grasp it, and then they can really start seeing something improve in a good way for them.
Absolutely.
Once they make that shift.
Yes. And then they really empower themselves, right? By understanding that we're manifesting and creating no matter what. So let's be intentional. Let's start creating the outcomes that are in our favor.
Exactly.
And, it's not easy all the time, right? But it's just a concerted effort. And then it turns into becoming easier and easier. And you do start trusting and believing. Like I've been doing this for years, but I think the last 3 years is really when I really got very intentional and really changed, understanding more. Like my consciousness really started expanding about 3 years ago, like took off. And it's still to this day, like I get so excited when these little manifestations like appear in the 3D, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so powerful. Like it just cracks me up. I just laugh. I'm like, oh, I am so damn powerful.
Yeah, it sure is something. It's one of those things that once you start getting how to really use your own mind, you also can never forget it any longer. It's like once you get it, you just get it. But I guess
Yes.
helping people reach that point, that's what we're trying to do with our own work, I suppose. At least
Yeah.
trying to sort of shine a light in that direction, and hopefully they see what we're trying to show them concerning
Agree.
their own consciousness.
Yes. And I think too what I liked about your videos too, and just kind of where we're all on the same page, is that, I remember when I first started understanding the concepts of like law of attraction and all of that, I don't care about manifesting a parking lot. Like who gives a shit, and it's like
Hmm.
they get so invested in manifest these little things. And I think sometimes you probably need to do that so you can really understand that you are powerful. But when we really look at human nature and what we want, it's the big things. It's love, it's good health, it's, abundance, prosperity, whatever that means for each person. And that's where people struggle. Anybody can manifest a parking lot and a cup of coffee. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's the big stuff that, because we have so many limiting beliefs and we keep fixated on this one possibility that keeps us boxed in, that we keep assuming that I can't have that, or this is the only way it can unfold, which is why it does.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that I like that you just said that, because I have this list of questions here and some of them are going to be about that. So
Oh,
I think we
perfect.
can just start with the first question so we don't get sidetracked too much here. Stay
Yes,
on
sir.
schedule. Well, the first question I had for you was, how did you get into the whole study concerning the law of attraction and metaphysics? Like, how did you even end up doing the work that you're doing right now?
Well, so years ago, I manifested some really big things in my life. And I watched The Secret. So I'm dating myself. I mean, like maybe 10, 12 years ago. So The Secret was kind of my first opening to, the power of our mind. And I've always been fascinated with human nature and the way that people think. And that's why I went into the study to become a therapist. And I went to school for that. So once I started helping people and I grew, because I have my own patterns and my own personal journey.
Hmm.
And so I could see like when I'm helping people, like I could help them and get them far, but then to a certain level because I hadn't grown past that transition. And I just have always been open-minded to spirituality. I'm more spiritual than I am religious. So, and just understanding again that there's so much more to us energetically. And just expanding, like just open-minded and listening, and throughout life for my own transition is really what broke me through. And I'm telling you, the last 3 years, I changed my whole life. I quit my job. I was having health issues because of stress. My relationships were not that great. I felt trapped. And I was like, I can't live like this. Like, there's something better for me, and I have to focus on me. So I changed my entire life 3 years ago. And I really jumped into the spirituality and just the whole metaphysical piece and
The
really,
whole journey started to unfold. Well,
yes, big time, big
I like
time.
I like that you said The Secret, because that is exactly sort of where it started for me as well. Way back in 2007, the summer for me. I th- I think, yeah, it was 2007 for me. My father gave me the book for my 18th birthday. So I'm 30, by the way. So maybe
Right.
I don't know your age. It doesn't matter. But I was at that age. I was kind of a young guy, I suppose, because my friends, none of them were really studying like law of attraction. But I remember one person stood out in the movie, in the book, was Bob Proctor, and he ended up
Yeah.
becoming my mentor also for a year. But
Yeah.
I remember when he would say, like, if you can, I think if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Just that one remark, I was like, at that age, I was like, what the hell? Like, that is so fascinating. Like, hold on a second, what does this mean? And then I just started studying it myself. I read that book for a couple months over and over again, and from that, well, I guess all sorts of books. I got like a bunch of them over there, like perhaps 100 books or something. But that's how the journey started for me. It's like it triggered something in my mind, and I guess it's a similar idea for you. But difference being, with me, I didn't really focus on coaching people yet, but I
Yeah.
guess right now I do it more in a creative way, like through video, like just share what could
Yeah.
help people. And I'm like, hey, this helped for me, this inspired me, maybe it can inspire you guys. So it's always interesting to hear how there's a certain similarity again in how people get on this path. But I think The Secret really had a huge impact on that with many people, as they said.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's nice to know that we have a common ground there. So it's not like, like it's like, oh, Kimberly, I just read some weird book and I just started studying metaphysics. You're like, oh, what's the book? Oh, yeah, this, that. No, The Secret, right?
Right.
Well, okay. Well, that's an interesting start of the journey. Now, the second question I had for you was, who has been your most impactful teacher? Or if it wasn't a specific person, perhaps an author or like a program or something that helped you out develop your own awareness more?
Yeah. So the two that I love is Abraham Hicks and Neville Goddard.
Oh, yeah. Abram is nice. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like her work as well.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I've read like all her books and listened, for years to her. But what really hits home for me with her and Neville, and I believe Neville Goddard sends the same message, is about the self-love. Because when we clean up our mental diet and we start assuming things in our favor and we don't engage in the negative thinking and the negative belief system, that's self-love. I mean, that is the gift that we give ourselves, to not bully ourselves, to not, be verbally abusive to ourselves with the negative thinking patterns that we all have. So
Yeah.
those two have been, because they're very deep to me, where and maybe it was just my own lack of expansion at the time, because right, this is such a process throughout expanding your mind with all of this. But a lot of the other teachers, it's always just really about manifest the car, manifest the house, manifest the money,
Yeah.
which, yeah, we want that stuff too. But I mean, then what? And I just love the fact of, let's feel good. Let's stop emotional suffering. And self-love is the key to that. And then you get all your manifestations. It's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I always notice with Abram Hicks is that I really like their talks about appreciation and that feeling of making peace with where you are. And I've listened to many of their videos online at least, but some of them I really like, yeah, because they're, even for me, they're like, oh yeah, it makes so much sense. Like, what am I doing? I'm overthinking stuff. Instead, just take a step back, calm down, get find the vortex, whatever they call it, but find
Yes.
that inner place of alignment and there's some balance, and that really creates magic, you could almost say. It's really awesome stuff.
Yes. Love it.
Well, and Neville Goddard, yeah, that one is, we all know it is a great guy. Well,
Amazing.
the third question is, what is in your eyes one of the most important things any man or woman should know concerning their own potential?
Oh. The possibilities are endless. So some people get scared when they understand that they're creating experiences and situations in their life. But I really try to help them see how empowering it is that when something's showing up, we can change it. So all it literally is instead of focusing on one possibility, because that's what we do, right? Like if we have a history of negative relationships, like, oh, they're going to leave me, they're not going to stay, we get
Hmm.
ourselves boxed in. So, okay, so I did this in one of my videos the other day where I'm like, well, let's come up with 10 more possibilities. Why not expand it? If you can create this one possibility, you can create 10 more. And then you see that the thoughts are so neutral, except we attach this negative meaning to them, which makes us feel horrible. So if we can attach 10 new meanings to this one thought, then probably 8 or 9 of them are going to feel good as opposed to negative. And you start really understanding that it's me making myself feel bad with the perception of how I'm viewing the situation. So I can change it over and over again.
I really like that description of possibilities. I never really thought about it, but it's a really interesting point you just made. Like, if we think about something from a negative angle, well, what are the other possibilities we could, find through which we can look at it differently? And it's suddenly like, oh, wait, I'm changing my mind about it. And then,
Yes.
funny enough, when you change your mind about stuff can improve. That is still a fact, yeah.
Yes.
I like that one a lot. I'll remember that one for
Good.
myself in my own life. It's like, huh, am I looking at this in the right way, or are there some more possibilities, Renew? I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Let's go for some other ones.
Yeah, there's always a million possibilities. So it's
Yeah.
like, why do we keep choosing the one that's not in our favor?
So it's almost like a habit for people, right?
It's exactly what it is, a habit. And then it's believed, and that's where the assumption, we talk about Neville Goddard, because it's a persistent assumption, right? Like, see, this keeps happening to me, this happens every time, but they don't understand that they're actually creating that over and over again. It's not like the experience happens and then we're like, okay, now I have to believe this because the experience happened. We believe it first and then we create the experience. So if we change the belief system and change our assumption, then we have a new experience. You see, people,
Exactly.
we're trained backwards. We're trained to see it before I believe it. And we all know that that's not the real case. It's believe it and then I see it.
Yeah, it's like that typical saying, "I'll see it," or wait, "I'll believe it when I'll see it," or like, first they
Yeah.
have to have evidence, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, I think it can work." But yeah,
Yes.
if you start
Yes.
believing already, it might actually work
It
anyway.
will work.
Imagine that.
Right. It will work.
Exactly. Well, that's a nice answer. I like that one.
Thank
Now I
you.
have a. The next question is, let me see. Oh yeah, there it is. Do you have any specific advice for anyone that would be watching this that is seeking a significant other? Because I notice many people are interested in improving their love life or finding a partner. I talk to women all the time, and they're like, "Is there anyone out there for me, Reneo?" And I sometimes think to myself, like, it is an area that I myself didn't really focus on with my studies. Like, how do people actually attract that right partner for them? Do you have any ideas about that?
Yes. So this was an interesting shift for me personally, because years ago I had the belief that, oh, if it's not meant to be, then they just kind of fade away, and then that's not the right person for you, which I think is bullshit. Because when I looked at my own patterns and I kept getting the same outcomes with the people in my life that I didn't want, I had to wake up one day because I'm like, I'm the constant here. They're all the variables. This is about me. Why is this keep happening to me? So when I started expanding, my consciousness and becoming more aware, I really did see how many specific persons I had reattracted back in my life multiple times. Like, I still have people from my past, years have gone by, that still periodically contact me, that I'm not in communication with. So we're constantly reattracting people back into our lives. So my belief is this: when it comes to a specific person, two things. So one is this: when you met the person, if you were in a good state of being and you were like on point and high vibing and really connected and engaging in self-love, then that person is probably, you can work on that with the person. Because this is what happens to people, especially women, is we're doing amazing when we're single and we have our girls and our career and we're focused and we love ourselves, right? And then we meet a
Hmm.
guy we like and we become insecure, and then the negative stories start playing in our mind and we start having the negative beliefs kicking back up and the insecurities are like showing up like crazy, and then we start manifesting the relationship pulling away and pulling apart, and then that's what happens. So it's you have to stay focused on you. So self-love is the answer, because when you met them when you were engaging in your self-love, and the reason why they probably backed away or left was because of your own insecurities. So if you keep working on you, and that's the hard part. I get this question all the time. I just had a subscriber asked me yesterday that she manifested her specific person after 5 months, and she'd been working on self-love, and then within a week, things were unfolding in a way she didn't like, and she's panicking and going to the worst case scenario. And this is what people do all the time. And it's like there's a bridge of incidents. Things have
Hmm.
to unfold that we have no control over. So you just have to keep staying focused on you and being in that state of being of someone who's in a loving relationship. because you wouldn't be worrying about that person. You wouldn't be thinking these negative things. And this is what's so important. And it takes discipline and it's a training. But once you get it, it's so much easier to shift into that state of being. Because I believe if you met someone when you were in a bad space, then when you do the work on you, if they don't grow with you and elevate their own energetic, state of being into that high level, then they will fall back because you met them in a place where you were low energy. So that's the only reason why it usually doesn't work.
No.
Remember, everyone we come in contact with, we have the ability to bring out positive characteristics in them or negative ones based on what we're thinking and feeling and believing about ourselves and them.
That is some interesting stuff. Yeah, I really like that because it is something that I've noticed in my own love life in the past, where there might be these insecurities. Yeah, and then once they start growing on you, you start sabotaging everything that was actually good about it to begin with.
Yes.
But it's not only happened with me. I also see it happen with other people indeed. Yeah, where you can just notice that they're sort of like, it's like they're in love, but then the old sort of insecurities start to grow so big for them that they actually sabotage the whole thing. That's why I thought it would be interesting to ask you, like, hey, what's your thought about this? But your answer actually makes a lot of sense to me, so hopefully also to others. I give them something to look at for a bit.
Yes.
The self-love, it always makes me think, like, if you're like really good at that, you automatically become a more attractive person to begin with. So it also helps to attract much more attractive individuals, I would say, because sometimes you hear stories from people. I always attract like crazy people, like negative people. I'm like, yeah, but it also kind of depends on what sort of person you are yourself and what sort of vibe you're like. The way we actually think and feel inside also determines the sort of people you want to hang around with, right? So I guess if it's already really negative, it's not that strange that you're not surrounded by optimistic, loving, great, high-focused people like that. Yes. I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, and it's true. Like when you look at your own life and just people around you, it's there's sayings, right? Birds of a feather flock together. Like there's all these sayings for a reason that we will hang out with people who represent us a lot. So if we feel like we're not worthy or good enough, then we tolerate a lot of behaviors from people, or we stay in situations that reinforce that. But and that's, listen, one of the biggest shifts for me was really energetically shifting, because I used to be the person that, I'm going to set a boundary and I'm going to and you should set boundaries with some people, but I'm going to engage in self-love by, you're not acting right, you need to treat me better or I'm out of here. And I would cut and run. Like that was my MO by, and then because I was getting rid of the resistance, but I kept having these relationships that were failing because I wouldn't stick around, right? But once I understood that it isn't about forcing with effort, it's about energetically getting in alignment with who I want to be and what I want and focusing on that. Because what I would do is, and I met amazing men, but because my insecurities would kick in, then I would just be focusing on like 3 or 4 negative things. And that's all that's different. He's being different. How come he's doing this different? I mean, it's insanity, right? And I would just focus on that. And then I would, energetically change. Even if I didn't behaviorally act different with them, energetically, I was very different. And that is the key. It's staying energetically in alignment as much as possible. And Neville Goddard talks about that when you embody who you want to become and staying in the emotional place. What does he say? Where you dwell, the emotional place that you dwell in the most is what unfolds in your life.
Yeah.
So current reality is always going to bump into us. It's always going to show something that's going to I don't like this. But you just have to keep persisting in the assumption that things are working out in your favor, that it's good, that this person is amazing in your life, that you're loved, that you are loving, that you're appreciative. All the people in your life love you and value you as much as you do. And you just go on and on and on. And you stay focused on that more so than not. Sorry, I can ramble with this stuff. I love this stuff.
Well, yeah, I think it's an interesting area of life indeed, because this is what I see a lot of the times when people start to study consciousness. This is just one of those areas specifically where people have a lot of questions, like a lot of issues, but it's also because as human beings we're all very like unique and different, and there always will be some clashing going on even in a relationship. But I think what you just said there reminded me of what Bob Proctor used to tell me, is to just focus on the positive aspects you see in your partner. So when even when time goes on and things seem to get a little bad, you still are focused internally on the good that exists within them. So you yourself are also not negative at all at that point. And that is one of the hardest things. I think we all have a tendency to always want to criticize sometimes, like what somebody's doing. You don't agree with your partner. You're like, I don't like this, and then you want to say it, but maybe it doesn't really matter in the end either. It's like
Yeah.
it's just part of the same journey that we're all going through, I suppose.
Well, and when we say things, see, and this is the thing that really like shifted me too, was we're trying to force them. So remember, the wrong way, or the way that's not effective, is going to the person and saying, you need to change because I want to feel better. Well, that person may do that for a little bit, but it never ends up staying. Or you go in this repetitive cycle of they'll be on their best behavior, so
Yeah,
you're upset, right? And then they go back to doing what they want, and then it's like this cycle, or you break up. So what I learned was, instead of doing that, if I was seeing something that was showing up in the dynamic, I'm like, okay, what's going on with me? And then I would look at, oh, I've been thinking negatively or focusing on this. So I don't even really put my attention so much on the other person in my mind. I mean, it's natural, it'll go there. I focus on me. I want to feel good, whether this person's in my life or not. I don't care. I want to feel good. So
yeah,
I need to do to step into that and feel good about me. And then this always happens. Then they just start showing up in the way that I like them to show up.
yeah. Yeah, it's something that I heard Abram Hicks talk about a lot as well, where like I forgot how they put it, but it was like, that your our happiness in a relationship should not depend on how they behave. Like,
Yes.
and that's something that I've noticed with women in my past, that they might be like, hey Renil, you're like that, like in theirs they're like, you're an amazing guy, this and that, and then I noticed that they want to sort of force themselves to change to so that I might find them more attractive, sort of. And
Yes.
it's only been since actually this year that I'm slowly realizing, hey, I can just tell them, you don't have to really change yourself for me like that,
Right.
because I rather just accept you for who you are, and you just unfold the way you need to unfold as a person, right? And instead, because that is again that forcing behavior, where it might be that a person might feel that they need to change to be attractive to someone specifically, and it's like that also doesn't really work. That also sounds kind of weird to me, like, because it
Yes.
doesn't sound authentic then.
Agreed. Agreed. And see, this is the way we're trained. I mean, and this is one of the issues. I don't, maybe issues is too strong of a word, but if you look at a lot of the dating coaches out there, they're always about, well, if he's not doing this, then this is what you need to do to make him change. And I'm like, no, that is wrong. And like, and years ago, I would listen to them and I would say what they told me to do. And, I really bought into that. But it's not getting in the energetic space that you need to be in alignment with what you
Yeah,
want, and then you allow it. See, once we get there, all the people in your reality just start showing up in that way, more, like we don't even have to do anything. And that's so empowering, is that, all right, I don't like what I'm seeing, so I'm going to go take a time out, just work on me. And then I start seeing evidence of it. Like, this is my indicator for me that keeps me like, yes, yes, I'm getting this. um it always start, like Abraham Hicks always talks about, the path of least resistance.
yeah,
So I'll start seeing it like more with people at the gym or at the gas station, or I get emails or comments of, if I'm like, oh, I want to be more valued or appreciated in my life every day. Like, I say it generically if I think my SP is not doing it as much as I would want him to. And then people start sending me emails and comments, and I'm just walking around and people are like, oh my God, your energy, like strangers are coming up to me. So I'm like, all right, it's working, it's manifesting, and it will show up in him too. It always does, always.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah. Well, you have good energy. I can tell through the camera. It's like I'm just
Thank
sitting here thinking, man, I need to create some more of that energy myself. As a man, I tend to be like super
partnership.
serious, but being a bit
It's
more playful with your energy, right?
yeah, it's just, you know what it is? It's like, I love this stuff so much because this is freedom. Like, we can have anything that we want. We don't have to be a slave to our mind. And listen, I'm not like this all the time, but I am like this 90% of the time, because I don't want to dwell in the low energy. For me is when oh, I don't like what's happening, or I'm focusing on, an old story, or an old situation that has no relevance to what's happening in my life right now. And I
Hmm.
don't need to do that. Like, what is the point of doing that? I don't want to create that over and over. So I don't let myself stay there, but I've trained myself to bounce out quick.
Well, I'm sure some women are gonna enjoy seeing you on my channel as well because I have a few female viewers, but they might be like, you could be a nice role model for them. I'm sure.
Oh, love it.
Some great energy. All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, let's go to the next question. Um, Oh yeah, this one is about financial things. Like I said, sometimes we may come across people who have financial issues. So what sort of tips do you have for people that want more money flowing into their lives? Because we briefly touched on that subject already. That it's another one of those important things where people are like, I would like to have more money, but then instantly they actually have no idea how to even go about it. Do you have any specific ideas that you talk about or teach people?
Yes. So and I love this question because it's all about energy still with money. And the problem is that, again, we get stuck in the one possibility that, oh, I work this 9 to 5. I only make X amount of dollars every week. So how am I going to get this money? And then that just shuts it right down. So some of the things that I do is focus on shifting my energy of how would I feel if I was abundant, because there's a difference. I think the first thing is you have to get clear, because I know for me in my own financial journey, when I left my 9 to 5 and went into business for myself, I was like, I don't care about money. I just want my bills paid. I wanted freedom. I wanted to run my own schedule and work with the people I wanted to work with. And I manifested that. In less than a year, I worked 2 days a week and all my bills were paid. And I worked with the only clients that I wanted to work. So then after 2 years of that, I'm like, no, I want abundance. Like, I want to be able to have no limitations and restrictions when it comes to spending money. Like, I don't even want to have to worry about it at all. So for me, energetically, I shifted from, moving in this place of, I just want my bills paid and more freedom, to, I don't want limitations. So
Hmm.
I visualize spending money, not like in my head where I'm at the store and I'm like passing out money. Like, I look at things that, to me, I would need money, a lot of money to do. So one of the things was redoing my house. So I would visualize like somebody coming to my house, or I'm telling people like, oh, I'm remodeling my house, I'm redoing my house. So within 2 months of doing that, I ended up finding out that my house is worth a lot more money than it was when I purchased it 10 years ago. So now I'm renovating it to put it on the market and sell it.
Nice.
Have the funds coming in to do that. And another thing I did too was, like, when I got my car, I just kept visualizing what it would be like to be in this car and driving the car. So I wasn't worried about like, oh, I need to manifest $1,000 a week, or I need to manifest more money. I visualize purchasing things, involving myself in things that take money to do that. And then the money comes in. So that works for me personally the best. Than me, I spent years of like, I want to manifest, a certain amount of money every month, and it wouldn't happen. And another thing that I do that helps me is, I say things like, I expect to see more financial abundance in my life every day. But what I do, because here's the problem with positive affirmations, is people tend to just connect to it intellectually, and they don't actually get to the feeling of what that's actually like to have financial abundance in your life. So don't say it if you can't go there. But for me, when I say this, because I've trained myself, I step into how I would feel having all this
Yeah.
money. because it feels damn good.
Yeah,
You know?
then they're like the two poles connecting, right? Your thought
Yeah,
and emotions. But if we're only doing it from the head, from thought
it,
alone, it's like, something is
it
missing, an ingredient.
yes, yes.
Well, that's pretty interesting what you just shared, because what I notice with people a lot of times when they talk about their finances, and they might ask me about it, like, I want to improve my finances, Renil. Well, I have a different ideas that I would talk about creating ideas in your mind through which you can provide service, stuff like that. It's a
Yeah,
different angle, sort of, but a lot
yeah,
of times you notice that pattern where people they instantly get stuck already in the idea of, if I want to improve my finances, I gotta get like a ton of jobs or something. Like they instantly go to that old pattern again. And I like
yeah.
how you said possibilities, right? Next, I'll say, what are some other possibilities to create wealth in your life, though? And then they start to open up their minds perhaps a little bit more.
Yeah, and when you get them to really shift in that energetic space of being abundant, then the ideas pour in. Because this is what's happened to me in my own 3 years of being in business for myself. So there was a period of time where I would, I'd be on my laptop and I'm like, oh my God, I got to come up with this idea and I got to run this ad and I have to create this and this and this and this and this so I can make money and I have to get money and I have to get money and how am I going to do all this stuff, right? So I was doing a lot of mental efforting and I was doing a lot of action and I could feel the resistance because it was anxious and like an angst. So it took me a couple weeks to like really catch it. So once I caught it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to detach from this and step out of that ego and just kind of get in realignment. So I started practicing the techniques I shared with you. And I kid you not, I manifested opportunities. I manifested the teachers that I needed to get me past the barrier to generate the income coming in, the ideas of to create money that like for me sing to my soul, like my purpose, what I'm supposed to be doing and the platform and how I want to do it just started like showing up in my brain. And so now I'm in the process of doing that and the money is coming in. Like I didn't even have to go and get it. It came to me. I got 4 new clients in 1 week and my coaching that people came to me and said, hey, can you do this? Hey, I'm sending my friend to you. This, I mean, it's been insane, but like
Yeah.
you have to energetically shift first and stay in that state of being. And then the ideas will come of how can they create more money? What are the other pathways that they can bring in more money?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, yeah. What you just said, because that's what I recognize in my own life. Once the feeling is there, once you really emotionally are in harmony with what you want, then that's also what I notice. Then all sorts of ideas start to flow into your consciousness. And I think that's what most people are missing at times, yeah, because then they might instantly zoom in with me like, okay, well, how do I find ideas? I'm like, well, it's not that you just randomly find them. It's more like how you described it. Yeah, it's first that feeling part, the inner work, and then the rest follows, adds to
Yeah.
that. I think
Yes.
that's something I'll have to be saying to people more specifically at times, so they hopefully get a better idea of it. So it's less mystifying to them, like, ideas. I'm not creative, Renil, they might say, but everybody is. I remember writing it in one of my books where it was like, the problem is that we're using the creativity to create the limitations we complain about. And that's
Love it.
pretty interesting, right?
Yes, it's
Something
true.
it's something I started noticing in my own world years ago. I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm creating all these negative ideas, limiting ideas. I can't do this, I can't do that, but I can just as easily think I can do it. Okay,
Right.
why not? But
Perfect.
it's like that shift, right? At
Yes.
first, it sounds a little weird to people. They're like, am I going crazy if I start thinking I can do whatever I want? And I'm like, you're not gonna go crazy. It's something I felt in a meditation once. It's like you're not losing your mind, you're finding it. It's like, hell yeah,
Love
that's how we
that.
roll.
Yeah, that's so true.
Well, let's see. The next question is, yeah, let's suppose someone is watching one of your videos, my videos, and they have never heard of any of these teachings and ideas before. Do you have like any specific book or like, well, movie would be kind of weird, but a book or author that you would suggest they start out with?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, I think it depends on the person. I would definitely recommend Ask and It Is Given from Abraham Hicks. Um, I don't, because I think it's just an introduction, and it breaks it down a very simple process: ask, believe, receive. And it really kind of gets the concepts of what you need to do. And then I do believe this, like, we're all human, and our consciousness is going to expand differently, like
Yeah.
there was people light years ahead of me. Like Neville Goddard has been around way before I was born and you were born, but like I was not ready for him until recently, in the last couple years. And Abraham Hicks, I've been listening for years, but where I was at in my own journey in life, there was things that I got from her, but I wasn't ready to expand, So there's just go search, and then
Hmm.
speaks to you. Like, just Google law of attraction. I mean, there's a spiritual teacher. I'm going to say his name wrong. I'm looking at my phone because he's on my phone. Bentino. Do you know what I'm talking about? Bentino.
Doesn't ring any bells.
So he's on, let me pull up my phone because Bentino Massaro. So he is a young man who has been on this spiritual journey for probably, I don't know, the last 10 years. He's probably like 30 years old. I love him. I think he's amazing. To me, he's very in alignment with Abraham Hicks and Neville Goddard and his teachings. So it's just, you just got to find the teachers. Like, when you're ready, they'll show up, right?
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, yeah. When the
Yeah.
student is ready, the teacher will appear. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
it actually made me think now that you explain this, how many of the books that came into my world, I actually didn't even consciously think about. They just showed up. All sorts of books, different angles about metaphysics, consciousness, this and that. That sometimes people ask me, like, "Hey, Renil, do you have any like books that you suggest I start reading?" Well, one of
Yeah.
them, I got it right here, is the well, I don't know if you can really see it. Well,
I
it's kind of
can
weird. It's the Upanishads. Have you ever heard of that?
never even
It's
heard
like
of.
one of the most ancient spiritual writings from Hinduism, even.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
I think if you, well, I study that, for example, right now because it, in a strange way, it felt like I recognized this. Like, and then people say you're an old soul, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I am. I don't know, but I recognize this. But then if I would tell people, like you say, like for some it won't work, like, or it's not really in harmony yet with them. They're like, this is some deep stuff, some weird stuff, or they'll never mind. So it is
Yes.
indeed a kind of like depending on the person, yeah, like what would work. But I think The Secret as well is like one of those more straightforward books that gives at least a general outline, I suppose, on what might be possible for them. I
Yes.
guess
Yeah.
that's how it started for me. Yeah.
I think too, for me, like, I personally don't recommend The Secret to people because I'm I'm more deeper. Like, obviously when I first learned of The Secret, I wasn't that deeply involved in how I am now.
Hmm.
But for me, the people I work with is really about the inner work, more than just, oh, if I think this and visualize it and then boom, I'll get my house. Because that's how The Secret worked for me. I got my house, I got a 6-figure income, I got a lot of great things from The Secret. But
Hmm.
I want to teach people how to get out of the mental prison of the emotional suffering, because we don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. And then that way, every day you're feeling better about you and your life. You're just manifesting so much more in your life and faster, than just focusing on this one thing and letting it go. But then you're miserable, because you can manifest being miserable. It's really what you believe. It's not about your feeling in the sense of I have to be happy go lucky, because not everybody is. I'm not happy all the time. And I still
Hmm.
manifest when I'm not happy. But why do we need to suffer? Why do we have to feel like crap?
That's a good question. It's like the Buddha said, life is suffering, man. It's like, yeah, well, part of it is inevitable, but staying stuck there unnecessarily, that's an interesting question, yeah.
But I don't even, for me, it's like, I don't even look at it suffering anymore. I used to, because, and I'm not trying to argue with the Buddhist people because they're amazing, but like, it's our perception on things. Like, things are going to happen, but it's, do we, like you said, stay stuck in it? Where's our responsibility in part of this? Because most of the suffering in my life has been, I've produced it.
Yeah.
I have been in control of it. And you know, people get funny with that kind of stuff because but Abraham Hicks talks a lot about that, about the point of attraction, that you know, we can't control if there's going to be a war, and we can't control if there's a gunman like running loose in the neighborhood, but what we can do is control our point of attraction of who we're bringing into our reality. You know, we can't go make people not do things to hurt other people. Really, we can't. That's their decision. But are we walking around in fear? Are we walking around panicky and worrying and in this state where we're going to attract more of that in our life? Or are we focusing on things that make us feel secure and safe and positive and abundant and loving? Because then we're attracting something very different.
Yeah.
People don't like that because then they have to take responsibility and they can't blame others. You know, people want to stay stuck in the story that it's my parents' fault, or it's my boss's fault, or it's my boyfriend or girlfriend's fault. All the people I've dated are blah, 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 blah. But no, like, you're the point of attraction. What are you attracting? It's coming from you, you know?
Yeah, that is one of the hardest things for people perhaps to grasp in the early stages, but then it get actually a lot of fun once you actually are willing to take the responsibility. You also start to discover how much more becomes possible, and then it's actually fun. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, I don't have to blame you. Perhaps I might still have a tendency in my own life where you might want to like sort of bitch about someone, and you're like you want to say something, but then over time you also start to realize I don't actually have to do that. It's like it is what it is. Let me just focus on something else.
Yes,
And
yes.
then you're not like in a victim story state. I think that's also what's behind many people that are in a way suffering from anxiety, like severe anxiety, because they're constantly worried about literally all sorts of stuff in their life that they feel that they can't control, when in reality they could if they would learn how to do so. Because I've seen many people worry about their love life, about finances, stuff like that, and it's like, those are things you could work on, though. That's kind of sad, but it's kind of off topic because it's not about mental health issues right now, but
Right.
I feel like that there's something there as well.
Absolutely, because that's, you know, that's not being present. That's not trusting that it is done. That is not believing that what you want will unfold. You're not utilizing the power of your mind for your benefit, right? And this is understanding that, because when we, like, I don't watch the news ever. You will never catch me watching the news. I haven't watched the news in probably 7 or 8 years. I don't engage in a lot of negative conversations. I don't tell. I'm learning this more and more, that I don't share with people good things that are happening with me. There's very few people in my life that I tell certain things, because the people are well-meaning and well-intentioned most of the time, but they can't help but force their negative limiting beliefs on you. And like, I just shared a conversation with someone the other day, or I shared in a conversation the other day with someone in my family about some money that came in, some financial abundance. I was so excited, and I said the number out loud, and the first thing out of her mouth was, yeah, but that's not the real reason why you're happy, right? It's because you get to help people. And I'm just like, no, I'm excited that I have this money. Of course I love helping people. This is what I've been doing for the last 10 years of my life, you know, but it's like, that was her belief that she was trying to put on me. And I'm just like, all right, I don't want to share things like that with people like that. I can't change them. That's okay. I'm not going to judge her for where she stands, right? Because she's got to go through her own growth process. But I'm not sharing that with people who have to come in with the side comments. That took away me being in the present moment, feeling the abundance and the excitement of seeing it come in.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of something that Neville would also say in his own way, where it's like you do something and then people will always try to find a different reason for why this happened in your world. And it's like
Yes.
losing track of the real invisible cause behind it all.
Yes.
It's kind of fascinating.
It really is. And it's interesting too. It's like, the more you practice this shift in state of being, you get so used to feeling better or good or best, that whenever you start getting nudged out of it, you don't want to stay in it. Like you'll shift back, like you want to stay away from people who bring that out, or it's just interesting. It's definitely a change in life, but for the better, you know,
Yeah.
but it's very addicting. Like I want to feel like this all the time.
Well,
I
there's nothing weird about that. Feeling good is great.
Yes, yes.
Well, I see, because time is going very, very. You have another appointment, right, soon or something. So, well,
Yeah.
let's go to the next question. It's about, usually once people start studying their consciousness, even in the slightest, they discover they might be indulging in a lot of negative thinking on automatic pilot. How would you suggest they break this habit and turn it into something more positive? Because that's something you really see a lot with people, is that they sometimes might even tell me like, no, I can't stop it. Like I constantly think, worry, like I can't stop. It's like I lost control of my mind. And I'm like, yeah, perhaps you have to retrain it again. Yeah, it might sound a bit hard, but if we've been living for decades in negativity mentally, yeah, then that might be a little, it's overwhelming maybe for people at first, right? So how would you suggest they work through that or with it?
Well, that is a really great question. And this is one of the biggest issues of why people don't break out of that mental prison. So this is what I tell my clients. I tell everybody this that I encounter is a couple things. One is you have to make a daily effort, and it has to be consistent work in the beginning. So there's a lot of efforting in slowing down your mind, because exactly what you said, you have to learn to retrain. So if we have 10 years of autopilot thinking negative things, if we say 5 positive affirmations a day and meditate for 5 minutes a day, we're not breaking that negative thinking pattern. So two things is this: is you're either aware of your thoughts when you're thinking of them, if you're conscious of it and you recognize, oh, this is a bad thought. And then I tell clients to take a couple deep breaths, because when we do deep breathing, it does release chemicals in our brain and our body that tells us to slow down. And it's just a beautiful soothing tool. So I have them do that. So it allows them maybe 15 seconds, 30 seconds to say, what am I thinking? And then once they understand what they're thinking, I have them write it down. And then I have them look at, okay, how do we counteract this thought? Because you can't tell someone, don't think that thought, because then they're thinking the thought that you're telling them not to think. And by the way, our minds don't register, it doesn't register that kind of talk. So it'll hear you say, think that over and over again. So I have them come up with a new thought that gives them
And
some.
you sort of guide them towards a new thought and mentality on with their, yeah, on their own. So like, you're not like saying don't, yeah, I get what you're saying here. I'm like trying to process it. It's like when you see someone in a very negative state, you can't say like stop thinking those negative thoughts. But what we could do is help them create a new story, an idea of what could be possible, and then it shifts more naturally within their minds.
Well, yeah, so then they have to repeat it. So one of the things is, so I practice this every day in my life, but when I first started, because all it is that it's what you said in the very beginning of this phone call, is that it's a habit. So it's a negative thinking pattern that we have to break. So to break a pattern, you have to replace it with a new pattern. So
Yeah.
it takes repetitive effort to start this new pattern. So when they create the new thoughts or new belief system that they actually agree with, then I have them write it out, because what happens is then they have to read it. So I have them write out like 10 new beliefs or 10 new thoughts that they can do. And I tell them, fold it up, put it in your pocket. And every time you catch yourself, you take some deep breaths and you pull that paper out and you read it. And you do whatever you can, because what you're doing is you're slowing your mind down. You're stopping the fast train, the snowball of the negative thinking by deep breathing. And then now you're going to replace it, because now you're taking your mind off of autopilot and focusing on what you want to start implanting in your subconscious. So the more you do that, I have notebooks all over my house where I have pages of different things and stories and beliefs and thoughts. And I pull out, some are general, some are specific. I pull out, like, I spend about 15, 20 minutes every day where I read them first thing in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee. Because for me, it gets me shifted in a better state of being.
Yeah.
And then I tell people to find YouTube and find speakers that they like or teachers that they like that motivate them and inspire them, because they need the external support to quiet down the internal mind when it's going crazy like that. And so the more you write it and repeat it, and the more you listen, because you need to focus on what they're saying, and it takes about 5 to 7 minutes to actually stay focused on hearing someone else speak when your mind's going 100 miles a minute. But once you start doing this and practicing this every day, within weeks, you will start feeling different, and you'll start replacing some of those thoughts with the positive feelings and the positive beliefs and the positive thoughts. But it takes consistent effort, and you're going to be exhausted when you first do it, because you're slowing down the speeding train. So it takes a lot of energy in the beginning, but that is your key indicator that you're on the right path. And then it becomes less and less and less as time goes on. That's why people don't do it.
I really like that you put it like that, explaining that at first it might even feel a bit exhausting and really difficult, because I think what happens for most people is that they, instead of seeing it as a good sign, they might see it as like, oh, this is not worth the effort. Like, yes, they really feel more comfortable in the negative, I suppose.
Yes. Well, it's exhausting. And so then what people do is they want to go distract. And distracting is not the same thing as shifting your belief system or coping. And that, you teach people that, like, it's okay to go take a break if you're exhausted and go watch a funny show, or go, I don't know, do something that makes you feel good. But that's not your answer. Like, getting your nails done, going shopping isn't the way to shift your belief system. It's a distraction that makes us feel good temporarily, but you can't get your nails done all day long and shop all day long. Like, it wears off. It's not enough. You have to learn how to master your internal world so that you're mastering your external world.
I love that. That's great. I think people can really at least get some hope out of that if they are reminded that, hey, even though it seems a bit hard at first, it doesn't mean that it's not worth the effort.
Oh, it's so worth the effort, because it's you. And anything we first try, like, look at riding a bike, driving a car, like, it's not easy. You know, it's easy for anyone. Like, you fall off your bike 800 times, you skin your knees, you crash, like, you're scared. But you keep going, and then you learn. Swimming, anything that we do, like, we have to practice. Nobody knows how to do it automatically at first. Some might be more inclined, to get it done easier. But this is your quality of your life. Like,
it's kind of like how Neville would say that, like, overcoming the tendency of being impatient for results. It's almost like as adults we become more and more, we have become more like we want it now, instant gratification. Yes. And with things of the mind, they take usually a little bit more work, instead of just grabbing some physical object that can temporarily relieve you from something. Like, people go to drugs even like that. It's kind of sad, but that they start to constantly try to run away from themselves because they don't like what's going on in the mind.
Yeah, well, that's what we all do. We do it with TV, we do it with other people. It's everything on the external needs to be a certain way to make my internal feel better, and it's wrong. Like, we have to make our internal feel better, and it doesn't matter. And then externally, it just matches. Life always reflects back to you what you think and feel and believe. So choose wisely.
Exactly. Well, that brings us to the next question, which is also an interesting phenomena, which you might recognize, at least I did in my past, and it's about if a person feels their current social circle is holding them back in some way, either because the people they're surrounded by aren't into positive self-improvement, or are trying to drag them down again. Like, what would you suggest they do in order to improve this area of their lives? Now, what I mean by that specifically in my own life, what I've noticed is that sometimes people are afraid that if they start working on themselves, they might be alone because they see everybody else from their past is so negative, for example, and they realize, oh, I can't actually be hanging out with them. If I want to improve my life, I have to walk away almost, and then that might be scary for people, and then they decide not to do it. Like again, it might create a pattern where they're like perhaps this isn't worth it. Maybe better off staying with the people I'm already surrounded by, that even though they're dragging me down, for example, when they're really honest.
Right. So that's a really good question too, because I've experienced that too, where in my life, I've lost close friends as I started elevating and internally shifting. But I didn't look at it as sadness or failure. So a couple things. So one is, it's same thing with specific person, right? Is that some of those people are going to come with us. I mean, guaranteed, because remember what's going on inside of us, we activate and influence more for it showing up through our interactions with people. So there's going to be some that are going to grow with you and come with you. And the others that don't, listen, you don't have to be mean or just cut them off or whatever. Like, this is what happened to me. I had two close friends, each of them I had for about 10 years each. And within 6 months, they both exited my life. And I didn't do anything different. They started picking fights with me. They said some really negative things to me. And then that was it. It was done. And it was manifested because I was changing and they weren't ready to grow with me. So they had to go. But the beautiful thing of this, and listen, I wish those women well, like they were amazing women. I want nothing but the best for them. But I wasn't angry. I was just like, I knew in my heart that it was time, that the relationship had run its course. And the really beautiful thing is that I made space for new people in my life. And now I have people around me that are just at such a higher place that it inspires me. Because I'm just in this space in my life where I am all about expansion. I want to keep growing and elevating and ascending because it is amazing to me. Just, I wish I would have learned this years ago, honestly, just making myself feel this way and manifesting my life. So now I just have amazing, not that those women weren't amazing, but like, I just have these people around me and it's me, this is what I'm manifesting in the relationships. Like, there's a lot of abundant, open people in my life that are helping me change my mindset around finances and money, and so supportive, because those women, as I was changing, they were not supportive. There was a lot of jealousy. They were angry at me, and it wasn't like positive. And I don't want people like that in my life. I want people who wish me well, because I wish everyone well. Like, there's enough for all of us, and I don't want people to suffer, so
Yeah.
So it is scary because yes, people may exit, but then you don't know though, even if they exit, they can always come back. Like, nothing's ever final. Nothing is final, not even in death. Because if you believe in energy, like, we're always, transitioning and transforming and transmuting, whatever. Like, nothing is
Exactly.
final. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I've noticed. I have a couple of friends who were in my life for almost like 15 years now, or half of my life, I suppose. But even throughout these studies, in fact, they want to learn more and more through it from me, and they've been improving their lives a lot concerning their career goals. And so one of them wanted to be a musician and stuff, and I told him for many years, like, well, why don't you do it? Start doing it, start making it, start sharing it. You're good at it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, maybe someday. Well, finally, years later, he said, I made this song. It makes me cry, man. I my whole heart and soul, I put it in this. I listened to it. I did. And I said, it's awesome, man. And he said, yeah, I'm finally realizing that I should be doing this, Renil. I'm like, yeah, took you many years to finally accept what I already said.
Yeah.
It's like, those are fun people because they grow with you, yeah. And then the other ones I've noticed, yeah, they have other interests in life. That's all right. I have the same. You're not like sitting here thinking, oh, I hate this person now or this or that. You're like, I hope your life journey goes well,
Yeah.
But some people really are afraid of being alone, literally, and that might cause them to.
But that's the work too, is that, you're not alone. Even if no one is around you, like, this is the power of connecting to who you truly are on the inside.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is it's breaking through that habit, it's breaking through that belief system. And if you understand that you're an intentional manifester, that you can create your reality, then you'll create new people coming in your life.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I hope others will as well.
They
the
will.
ones that might be struggling still a little bit.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the next question. Two more. This is the 9th one. So,
And I have to wrap up in 2 minutes because I literally have people who'll be
Okay.
at my door in 2 minutes. So if we ever need to finish in the future, we can definitely do another one in the future.
All right. Yeah. This is just a last question, or the final, almost final one. So we'll do it real quick. Like, is it possible for any healthy, functioning human being to achieve a great life for themselves? And where do you suggest they start in order to demonstrate this? Well, now that I actually asked the question, I think we already answered this earlier. So
Yeah.
actually, we can skip it. Maybe I was a little dumb there, but yeah, it's the first time
No,
I'm doing an interview, right?
I think you did great.
Okay, the final question would be about an inspirational quote. If you have one for the viewer, what is the most inspirational quote that either you have heard or written that you would like to share with anyone that's watching?
So I'm going to say what I said in the beginning, that the possibilities are endless
Oh, I like that quote. It's good to
because
remember
you
that.
can apply it to anything, anything.
I will definitely do that myself, and hopefully other people will as well. And that's actually great timing because this was the last question anyway, so I guess we
Yay.
managed to do it just in time then.
Did
Uh,
perfect.
I want to really thank you for your time, taking some time of your day to answer these questions. I will be emailing you probably later this week to let you at least know when I edited the video together, and then you can see the end result. Hopefully the recording is nice. I don't know for sure, but I'll work with what we got, I
Sounds.
suppose.
And thank you. I appreciate everything and meeting you and being able to talk with someone else who is open-minded. Like, I love this stuff. I can do this stuff all day long. We just got to get paid for it.
It's really awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be
But
sure to check out some of your future content anyway, and well, I'll leave a comment every now and then when I have time. So
thank you.
until then, I wish you a great day. It's still day over there, yeah, afternoon. So
Yeah.
wish you a great day. Thanks for your time, and good luck with everything that you're
Thank
still planning
you.
on doing in your world.
Same to you. And let's stay in touch and watch each other grow. I think it's wonderful. It's good to see other people helping other people. I love it.
Well, we'll be sure to stay in touch, indeed. So
All right, Renelle, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
yes, and never forget that we are the dreamers.
We are.
Right.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.